Bam! Good morning. You tuned in to that Iguana Talk. It's that morning conversation. While your boy Dax is rolling up his blunt, getting ready for his workout. How's everybody doing today? If you're tuning in and you're new around here, comment below #Savage and drop a comment. Let me know where you're tuning in from. I check all the comments. I suck at responding, but that is going to change. I'm gonna do a little better job at trying to, engage everybody and get to know some of y'all. So, in order to do that, I need you to share who you actually are, man. Where you tuning in from? What city? What state? What country? What shop? And most importantly, what style of artwork are you most passionate about? That's a conversation that I'd love to have at another time. Is what type of style are you most passionate about, man? Today, though, we are going to continue what I jumped into in the last video, which is 31 lessons I learned the hard way working in tattoo shops before I opened mine. Now, right now, I have 2 studios. I'm sitting in my Wynwood location. It's in Miami in the Art District. And I have a studio in Utah, for those of you who don't know. A little bit about my background, just to back up a little bit for the new timers. By the way, if you're watching the live video, comment #Savage. If you're watching the replay, comment #Cabbage. A little bit of a background of me. I started tattooing when I was like 13 years old. School of hard knocks, didn't do it the traditional way, broke all the rules, eventually had to learn the rules, eventually started breaking the rules again, and eventually opened a studio thinking that was kind of like my dream. And it was cool, but it helped me realize, holy shit, I thought that opening a studio was like when I didn't need to learn any more skills, when I could just focus on the art and just kick back and make more money. That was not the case. I had to learn how to market, advertise, influence, lead, do payroll, manage, hire, fire, and all of that stuff. And I remember when I opened my studio, really early on, I had about 6 months booked up of my clients, but I had 4 artists that didn't have really anything next week. And I remember I could always go out and we would go to this little hibachi grill where they're flipping the rice and flipping the chicken and the shrimp and the lobster. Well, I used to always eat there, but my team couldn't eat because they weren't making money. They didn't have clients, right? And so I remember really early on in my studio, I was like, hey man, I remember realizing like, yo, this ain't gonna go very far if I do this booth rent thing. It's not going very far for these guys because they don't really know what they're doing and they can't do it on their own. And at the same time, even if they could, they can't do it to the level that we are able to do it with a team. Teamwork makes the dream work. Really early on, I knew I had to learn advertising. If I was going to keep people around, because it didn't feel good. I didn't feel like a man, like a leader, having people starving next to me. I couldn't just say, hey, this is booth rent, that's on them. That ain't my style, I would rather work alone or rather than work next to people struggling. So instead, I was like, hey, we got to change this percentage thing. If we change it, I'll figure out how to get clients in here for you guys. So you guys can just focus on developing your art. And that's what we did, and it worked out, Fast forward 6 years later, here we are. So let's get into it. Sorry for the ramble. Today is we're gonna try to go through 10 of these lessons. In the last, here's what I learned, 31 lessons in tattoo studios. That first video is lesson 1 through 10. But it looks like we are gonna jump in on lesson 11 and keep going from there. So lesson 11 is represent and promote the shop daily. Here's one thing that I often see with artists that are unhappy in the studio that they work in, is they often aren't providing any value to that studio. Whether it's their attitude, or maybe they're in the wrong place, or maybe they just don't understand the give and take and like the bank account that of give and take, to where like, hey, you know, if you're a cool motherfucker and you just do stuff unconditionally and just help a brother out, help a studio manager out, help a studio owner out, he's probably gonna like you. Versus the person who does the bare minimum. Well, no wonder why you ain't getting very much opportunities, you know? Nobody gets rewarded for participating. You gotta earn your stripes, man. You don't earn them in a chicken outfit. You earn them by really your results, you know? And it's almost the same thing. You'd be a fool to sit out there and dance around in a chicken suit for an apprenticeship. But you'd also be a fool to think that what you're getting is not a direct result of the actions you've taken. Extreme ownership is what I'm talking about. It's a huge, huge strength, huge skill to have when it comes to growing as a tattoo artist. Actually, I want to throw a little bonus tip out there. Is that cool? Drop a little yes below. Still trying to figure out these comments and how to keep them on. But so yesterday I was tattooing one of my VIP clients, Todd Brown. He's a mega marketer. The dude's helped businesses make hundreds of millions of dollars. Dude's a genius when it comes to advertising and stuff. But he's so like, it's so funny because he's so like new to tattoos. I gave him his first tattoo, and he's in his 40s. And at the same time, like, he doesn't know anything about weed. So it's just funny tattooing him. He's like a complete rookie and shit in places where it's like, you know, triple OG Dex. It's, so, but like, he asked me, we were at lunch before our tattoo appointment yesterday, and he's like, Dex, when it comes to tattoo artists, what is the one thing that you think is most important to them if they want to make a career out of it? And I had to think about that, because there's not just one thing. If there is just one thing, it's belief. And not just belief, but belief to the level that the word changes to conviction, to a covenant, to something that you would commit to God in a way, like a prophet would commit to God, to where there's no question whether it's going to happen or not. There is absolutely zero doubt. There's absolutely zero blaming. It's extreme ownership. It's extreme belief in yourself. Extreme. If you know my story, you know, I thought I had art in my blood because I was a tattoo artist, because I would get all these drawings from my father from prison. Well, at some point in my life, I met him and realized, hey, this guy's not really that talented. I didn't have art in my blood, but at this point I was winning awards in high school, so I was like, I can't deny that I'm an artist. Well, what got me to this point? What was it? It was the belief that I had it in my blood. So that's why I say, like, if there's one thing, it's such a strong belief that you believe in whatever you want to do, that it's in your blood, that it's going to happen, and that there is no, and not just saying that, but actually acting upon like you believe that, because you can see it in someone's actions how much they believe in themselves, in their confidence, and the confidence in anything they do. So that would be number one, belief. Second thing would probably be adaptability, like being willing to grow and adapt and not just be stuck in one way. Another one would be ownership, extreme ownership. It's like, you know, if you fuck up, it's not time to explain why you fucked up. No boss, nobody wants to hear that. Your clients don't want to hear that. Nobody wants to hear your excuses. You don't want to hear mine either, you know? And nobody wants to hear you blame anything on anybody either. What people do want to see is they want to get tattooed and they want to be around people that are like, you know what, I fucked up. I apologize. I don't know how this happened, but I can tell you this one thing. I am a problem solver and I'm gonna do whatever it takes to get this thing solved. Like, that is the only acceptable response when you have a confrontation with the studio owner in a tattoo shop that you're working next to. It's not about, nobody wants to hear your excuses. Excuses don't create results. Excuses don't create solutions. And a business owner's time is very valuable because at some point he's got to do all these different positions. So, you know, it just becomes even more annoying to somebody that's very busy to hear excuses. Because the man that you work for did not create their business on that bullshit vomit that comes out of the mouth. Those excuses. It's not possible. So, extreme ownership. All right, so let's get into the next one. Unquestionable, dedicated loyalty. All right. Are you just loyal to somebody based on the opportunity? Or are you loyal to somebody based on your own moral code? See, where I'm from, there's a moral code, all right? And I had to learn it. It wasn't something that was brought up through family. It was something, I mean, that I kind of learned in the gang. It was something that I kind of learned through life. But there's something to be said about loyalty, because the level of loyalty that you express to other people and honesty and just what you put out there is a direct reflection of what you give to yourself. So the level of loyalty to other people is directly correlated to the level of loyalty you have towards yourself. Because anybody that has self-esteem and prides themselves on their word also connects somewhat into the loyalty factor. That goes right up in there with keeping your word. Being loyal, keeping your word, integrity, those three things intertwine. And when one of those isn't there, all of them get questioned. If you can't keep your word, your integrity is questioned. If you don't got integrity, keeping your word is questioned. And same with loyalty, all right? A tattoo studio owner, understand, like, if you want any type of skill, you go to what? College in normal real world, right? And how much do you pay for that stuff? Okay, now how much do you pay for a studio to teach you and mentor you and give you an opportunity to work on their clients that they built with their brand and put you in there? Basically bring you to the table when you didn't cook the food, you know? That's a huge blessing, right? Especially if you're getting it for free. You should be paying thousands and thousands of dollars. This is why I don't apprentice people. If I would apprentice people, you know, number one, it's not just gonna be about the art, it's gonna be about everything. You're gonna need at least 100K, because how much money I can teach you how to make and the level of lifestyle and career that I can teach you as a tattoo artist, I wouldn't accept anything less than that, because you ain't even gonna get that being a surgeon or a doctor. And that's just the way it is. But a lot of tattoo artists, they don't want it. They're not willing to pay that, you know? They're not willing to pay the dues they need to, you know? From the actions to the risks involved to the money involved. But obviously this ain't about me. I'm not even offering any type of apprenticeship. But understand that most of the time, what you think it takes to make something happen is right here. It's down here compared to what it actually takes. And that's why you haven't made it happen yet. And this is, I'm speaking from my experience. All the times that I have came up short on something, it's because I thought it took this. I thought it took this, but I thought this was up here. What I realized is it took this, and I only was right here. It took a lot more than what I thought it would take. And that was my misunderstanding, seeing it that way. I think a lot of people have that same situation. When you're unclear, ask more questions. When something's on your mind, don't bottle it up. Okay. Some artists, I used to, and I speak from some artists I've worked next to, some artists that I've hired, and even myself in some of these things. But I used to think having all the answers was a strength. I used to think that being the know-it-all was a strength. I used to think that not asking for help was a strength. I used to think asking questions was dumb, and I would feel embarrassed asking it. What I realized is that's actually a strength, to be able to ask and have the humility to say, I don't know. That's okay. You know, it's respectable. People want, that's refreshing, because if you go on Facebook now, everybody seems to be an expert at something, from coronavirus to fucking politics to fucking tattoo to all to business coaching to life coaching. Like, get the fuck out of here, man. This shit's ridiculous. Everybody thinks they're an expert. And it's interesting, you know. It's pretty interesting how easy it is to become a life coach and not really be able, like, not take your own advice and coach your own life, you know. Pretty interesting how that industry works. Ask more questions. Questions equal clarity. Clarity equals confidence. Confidence equals inspired action. Motivation is directly correlated to how clear you are. If you're all confused and you have a bunch of bottled up thoughts and it's just everywhere, you got a lot going on, if you meditate, you'll realize it's a lot easier to get clear. However, you got to get your mind clear. Once you get it clear, that's where your motivation comes back in. It doesn't come from juicing up a bunch of energy, taking an energy drink. It comes from clarity. When you're clear, there's no procrastination. When you're clear, there's no what is that? Contemplation? No procrastination. When you're clear, it's it's tunnel vision. It's inspired action. That's what we do when it's the same feeling when you're in the zone of a tattoo and you lose track of time and you're just inspired by it. You're clear. Versus a time where you're not so clear. You might want to take you might take more frequently of breaks during that tattoo where you're trying to get it clarity in your head. How many of you guys know what I'm talking about? Maybe that's just me, but I know when I'm clear, I'm not taking breaks. When I'm unclear, I'm gonna pause some breaks to kind of get a feel for where I'm taking the shading or the flow of the machine of the tattoo or something like that. Let's move on to the next one. By the way, if you guys got questions, drop them, and I'll do my best to answer some of those in a bit. Let's move forward to the next one. Do the small things. That is so big. Everybody wants to do big things, right? But they don't realize that there is no big things. The small things are the big things, and they amount to the big things. And if you can't do the small things, what makes you think you can do the big things? Let alone what makes you think somebody of, influence would put you in position to do the big things if they see you can't do the small things. And not that you can't, but that you aren't. All right? Big difference between can't and aren't. And the can't doesn't matter. Are you doing the small things? Because if you're not, that's where you're dropping the ball. That's what's holding you back. And that's what held me back for a long time. I remember when I had a hard time having artists clean at my studio until they start seeing me cleaning at the studio when I got better shit to do. And I'm not saying anything to them, but I'm just leading by that example. And I'm not cleaning every day, because obviously I'm in another state, but that's what I did. Same with taking a walk-in. Sometimes artists get used to our system where they are all by appointment. They're all doing these big sessions. But then somebody comes in and they want to walk in, and nobody wants to help them. But then Dax picks up, and Dax is the busiest guy there, all right? Just definitely sets a standard and really checks everybody there. Like, yo, I need to check myself. Like, if the busiest guy here is doing this, maybe I need to check my attitude on this same thing. So doing the small things equal the big things. And that's just in one way. See, when you hear about a blow up from an artist or musician, it's not really a blow up. You just heard about them then. That's when you became aware of them. that doesn't mean that they just blew up yesterday. They did those small things for years until eventually it caught up to them. And that's exactly how it works with you, is like those small things, small habits, good habits or bad habits, like they add up. There's a book I recommend. It's called The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. It has absolutely nothing to do with tattooing, but it has to do with habits and what we're talking about right here. Pretty quick read. I highly recommend it if you're interested in learning more about that. But the small things equal the big things, man. And when you're focused on the small things, the best part is you don't cut corners. See, so many people want to cut corners and find that hack and find that fast, quick magic pill. And we all know it ain't out there. And if there is, we all know it has side effects. Do the small things. All right, let's get on to the next one. Showing up on time is late. When you can create that mindset, when you have the mindset, see, this is a lot of what I go into and what I believe has helped me in life is being able to come from different frames of mind. Environmental exposure is huge. And what that is being around people that think bigger than me. I've always been the youngest kid in the crew until I started opening my businesses. But my mentors, they're all old ass men. I hope none of them see this. You are old, but you are handsome men, and you're not balding. But I'm the young guy in the circle because I like to learn. I like to be the young guy that's underrated. Nobody knows what he's capable of. But once they press that button, this motherfucker attacks and kills. All right? And not obviously real, but I like to be the guy that has resources, a network, and I just have the artillery in my back shed if I need to. But I'm not going to go out there and brag about it. But being around people, like you've heard the saying where they say, look at the 5 people around you. Do you want to be like them? Because in 5 years, you're going to possess the qualities that are like them, whether you like them or not. So for me, I've always put myself around people that are higher up in the direction that I want. And that has helped me a lot because it's helped me see what's possible. From throwing a seminar, a workshop in Las Vegas at Floyd Mayweather's house last year, that wouldn't have came if I didn't have a mentor sit next to me and he's just like, dude, why don't you just throw an event? We were in Thailand sitting in there. He's like, why don't you throw an event? I'm going to Vegas. You're going to Vegas. Like, I'll help you out with it. I'll come show up. And then I gave him all these excuses of like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'm ready. I don't know if this or that. And he kind of had to drag me like a kid crying in the grocery store because he's got to get dragged out because he's acting like a little badass. He dragged me to the next level. All right. But now that next level is more familiar. So it's not as scary. It's not as, I'm not nervous taking it. And that's the same with you. And the thing that I always find benefits me is those shifting the frame to smaller thinking to bigger thinking. And one of those is how you show up. I always say, this is my motto: if you show up on time, you're late. If you show up early, you're on time. 15 minutes early, you're on time. And that's always served very well for me. Really what it does, it just makes you show up on time. It's annoying, and what no boss wants to hear, another excuse as to why you're late for an appointment, for anything. Like, ultimately, every time I hear an excuse, I just hear another reason why I should never have put this person on my team, because you don't hear me saying that stuff. And that's something to understand. And I think every business owner, now there's a lot of studio owners that make excuses, and I can't speak for them. I don't speak for the daddies out there that preach being a daddy but don't walk being a daddy. And I don't, same with the mentors. But if you show up late, the only respectable thing that a man does is apologize, say it won't happen again, and actually follows through so it doesn't happen again. That's how I look at it. That's what I would do. You know, it's unfortunate how just showing up late over and over again, some people don't think it's a big deal, but it creates some kind of buildup and frustration to other people on the team. And it's, you know, such a small, weak action can turn into a ruining opportunity that could change an artist's life. Okay, next one is 17. Making excuses and justifications as to why something didn't get done is annoying. Do the fucking work and deliver the results that you were hired for, which means that comes down to your clients. All right, they don't want to hear justifications as to why you couldn't do something. They don't want to hear excuses. Deliver them the fucking tattoo that they're paying for. It's that simple. All right. It's that simple. And same with the situation that you're in. Same if you're in a studio. All right. Deliver the results you're hired for. Don't come off like this entitled artist that. One thing that artists don't realize is you got to understand, if you want to build your clientele or if you want to work next to a team, work with a team, because that's two different things. All right. An artist that goes to a studio that they know has a good rep to want to build their clientele so that one day they can go and do their own thing is unethical. All right. In fact, you're stealing business from that shop, and if the shop understood that they could take you to court for that, I think it wouldn't be such a common thing in studios, but you definitely can get taken to court for that, and you will lose for doing stupid shit like that in many circumstances with a legit shop. It's not a smart thing to do. In fact, it's a weak thing to do because you're milking them. It's basically taking food off their plate that you didn't prepare and cook and taking it to a new house. All right. If you want your own clientele, do your own fucking thing, or go in a booth rent studio and work your own clientele. That would be the best, most respectable way, because once you build clientele and dip out, there's no hard feelings. But if somebody has been spending money and investing into you, you know, in hopes that you continue to go on the boat as they're growing, because, you know, if somebody brings you on and you're not paying them anything and they teach you a hard-earned skill like tattooing, they want you there for the long term. If they're doing that, your obligation is to show them that you were a good decision to do that with, because they could have done that with anybody. And you do that by unquestionable loyalty. You do that by communicating, you know. If you don't want to work for everything can be solved with communication. At some point, you might not want to work for somebody, but the wrong thing to do is to hide that and to do it the mischievous. You know what's shady and what's not. You know what's lame and what's not. And if you put yourself in that studio owner's shoes, you probably see it for what it really is. It's unethical. It's stealing. And vice versa. Same with studio owners. All right. Let's flip that on them. Making excuses as to why the bills ain't paid, why the internet ain't on, shit like why we don't got paper towels. All right. You need to step it the fuck up or step out. All right. That's a pathetic thing. All right. Do you understand that, especially the studio owners that do 50-50 and they charge you a percentage and they're only offering you a place and supplies? All right, that doesn't make sense to me, because I offer advertising with that. And advertising is actually the only thing that you should be paying a commission on, in my opinion, to make sense out of it, because why break bread? Why break a commission unless they're doing something for you? Like, supplies isn't enough. Supplies has never been enough. But what if they could get you, what if you're tattooing clients? Then that percentage makes sense, because it's kind of like you're getting more tattoos that you never would have got, but at the same time you're breaking bread because you never would have got them. That's a fair situation versus 50-50 and you're just supporting a booth and there's no advertisement, and their artists are still struggling, all right? You're not going to keep artists around for very long, and especially if you're giving them excuses. Deliver the work, deliver the results, be a man of your word. Next thing, putting in the work, leaving late develops discipline, develops persistence, develops will. This is also what separates the averages from the savages, all right? You see what I did there? I truly believe, you know, not in an ego way, but if you think of what do you imagine when you imagine average? Now, what do you imagine when you imagine savage, all right? Anybody can be from point A to point B, and it's an action, it's a mentality, it's just a way of life. And it's a way of attacking whatever's in front of you, all right? You can do average, or you can turn it up a notch, and that's gonna be savage. And really, it just comes down to focus. It comes to putting in the work, developing the muscles so that they're strong and prepared for the opportunity. Because if you're prepared for the opportunity, when it shows up, it doesn't come as an excuse coming out of your mouth as, oh, it's not the right time, or, oh, I don't have enough money, or, oh, I'm not ready for this. You had the opportunity, but you didn't prepare for it in advance. There's going to be another opportunity somewhere. It might not be the same thing, but you got to prepare for the opportunity, because it gets interesting. When you start to prepare and you're like, what am I preparing for? I'm just going to do it and have faith. It's interesting how certain things come into your life, opportunities, and you're ready for them because you've been doing the steps. Versus the other mentality. See, the wrong mentality that will never get there is the mentality of, I'm going to wait until I get in a better shop to do different actions, or I'm going to wait for something before I do something. You have to do something, and then you wait for it to come back. That's how it works. You don't do something once it's been put in front of you. You do it to get it put in front of you. All right? Next one, be yourself and have fun. That's most important, man. You got to have fun. Just don't be so damn reckless where you're fucking shit up, you know? Be responsible with your fun. Be yourself is non-negotiable. Don't try to be the next Nico or Tato. Be you. Everybody has a different path. Number 20, do more than expected, all right? If you have a problem with doing more expected, you don't expect enough for yourself. Understand that. Understand that when you work in a business, that person is way further in decision-making, risk-taking, and follow-through than you. That's why they got their business. They had to take risks, they had to make decisions, and they had to follow through with shit. It was not easy. In fact, when it comes down to the actions you take, do more than expected, because that's what they had to do. And this is also when it comes down, remember when I was saying, good God. All right, Briella. Yo, wow. Man, we got some wild motherfuckers here. We got some real savages. I didn't know it was that savage around here. It's early in the morning for that type of comment. Good Lord. Back to what I was saying, doing more than expected. Remember when I was saying, like, oftentimes when I came up short, it was because, I thought what was required to reach success was this, and it was a lot of work, when really I realized that it actually, to succeed, it took this much, but I was only down here. So the amount of work I thought was necessary was a lot less, there was a lot more involved than what I thought. So by coming into it with a small mind, once I realized there was a lot more, it just seemed like a mountain. So, I just, it's easy to get discouraged at that point. Versus, when you do more than expected, and you expect to do more than expected, and you expect it to take longer than it actually does, and it's harder than it actually will be, guess what? That's when it becomes simpler and easier. But you got to step up the expectation and you got to step up your actions. See, like I said, if you have a problem with working in a place and doing more than expected, it's because you do not expect enough from yourself. When you expect enough from yourself and your standards are higher than anybody else could ever handle because you are in competition with yourself and you're serious about your growth and being the best version of yourself, nobody expects more. Nobody can expect more from you. In fact, you become an inspiration. You become the person people want to work under and work in their shop when you start to do that. It doesn't come from having a business and doing all that. So let's go into, I'm going to check out these comments in a second. Forbidden Tattoo says, I'm joining a new tattoo studio today, but they don't have any clients and I have to feed my family. I'm very confused about what happens and how to manage, sir. All right, my big question to you is, are you already skilled? Have you already put in your dues and have the skills to where people are paying you money? Or are you an apprentice? Let me know. Until I get that response, what we're going to do is we're going to go on. Do more than expected. Next one, admit when you fucked up. I've already said this one, but it's so crucial. You'd be surprised how much stress and how much relief it takes off of, the mentor's back when they just have somebody there that can say when they fucked up and not make excuses. Ownership, responsibility. Next one, apologize when you do fuck up. You should, right? There's people out there that apologize when they shouldn't apologize. But when you fuck up, you should, Don't apologize because you said, sorry if I come off like myself. A lot of people are apologizing for being themselves. Don't do that. No way. But apologize when you fuck up, regardless if it's yourself or not. Number 23, have clear goals and always be learning, all right? Doesn't have to be 5-year goals, In fact, I don't trust people that have 5-year goals because if I asked myself 5 years ago what my goals were, it had absolutely nothing to do with where I am now, all right? I think that's just a huge delusion and it's bullshit, So, but what is a goal? Like, my goals are learning things. Do I want to learn how to sell my art on canvas? Do I want to learn how to duplicate my business system in another state, in a bigger city, to see if it's able to be duplicated anywhere? I like to learn things. I don't really put a X amount of dollar goal or things like that. It's more about experiences, skills and experiences and skills, and I think that's it. All right, Nadia, why don't you get the fuck off of here? Like, nobody gives a shit about your comments about black or white people. Like, that's not what this video is about, all right? Kick the fuck rocks. This shit's just not what I want on here, all right? Take that for how the fuck you want. For everybody else here that's here for the right reason, can we all say, Nadia, get the fuck out of here? There we go. You heard it. You heard it from Brielle. Go ahead and kick rocks. Like, we ain't here for the bullshit. What the fuck are you thinking? Clearly you ain't here to learn. You ain't here for tattooing. Go hang out in the Facebook comment section about coronavirus, man. All right. Where's the homie? Yo, homie, where you at? Forbidden Tattoo. Come on, man. You said you're joining a tattoo studio. I'm just gonna answer it since you didn't respond. I'm just gonna give you two different situations, all right? Yo, will somebody want to report this Nadia bitch? Let's just kick her off real quick. You know, there's always that one person. There's always that weed in the grass, man. Like, why even show up? What the fuck are you doing? Go take care of your kids or something, man. So, with homie that said he just was joining a studio, I would, like, if you're an apprentice, you can expect to eat shit for at least 2 years. Like, for me, when I learned how to tattoo, that's the hardest part, and there's no easy way around it. You're gonna have to get multiple jobs. For me, I don't recommend this, but I was selling things that I don't recommend when I was learning, and that's how I got by. But ultimately, you can expect not to make money for the first 2 years while you're learning how to tattoo. You understand that? This isn't a job where you get 2 weeks fucking training and then you get paid. In fact, if you do get paid, regardless if you think it's working and you're getting paid when you shouldn't get paid, like, one thing you're not realizing is you're damaging your rep in the long term without even realizing it. It's better to do free tattoos for a couple years and have people bragging about how dope this guy is and how much he's advancing, and then not have the weight of having to kind of do a good tattoo because they paid you. It's a free tattoo, so it's all learning. You're gonna get a lot further, a lot faster in skill development by doing free tattoos and just focusing on the art. You're still gonna have to get a job. Still gonna have to, like, do your thing and make income some other way. That's one thing to understand is, when it comes down to how do I take care of my family, how do I pay my mortgage, how do I pay my 5 car payments, and how do I pay all the debt when I'm just learning as a tattoo artist? Well, you don't. You need, in fact, tattooing is not for you at this point in life. If you got that much expenses and you're living that lifestyle, there's no chance in hell you're gonna learn how to tattoo and support your family. You can't. Like, you're gonna have to go get a fucking job. Your expenses are way too high. You can't even invest into your learning. All right, we are back. All right, so there's another comment. Infinite Syndicate. Give me some more details, man. Because what's more important before you talk about how much does it cost is how much are you valued? Like, how long have you been tattooing? What's your skill level at? Like, realistically, are you in the top 3% in your local area? If you're not, I would focus on skills. I wouldn't be opening a shop. Because learning how to develop your skills, it becomes a lot harder when you have to be the boss man in 10 other positions and learn how to do good art. But I would say you're gonna need anywhere from, if it's just a studio with you, you're gonna need at least $8,000, bare minimum, and that's if you know what the hell you're doing and you know how to, and you already have clients. If you don't, and it's something new, you're gonna need upwards towards 15 to 20 grand. And that's still bare minimum. That's not getting cool supplies or anything. It costs about $50,000. If you want a plush looking studio, it's gonna cost you $50,000 to $100,000 just for how it looks inside. Now, I don't recommend starting like that. In fact, for the first 3 years of my business, dude, we almost made $1 million before we even bought Tatsol chairs. We were tattooing on fold-up chairs because I was smart enough to say, hey, sacrifice for the long term. Let's sacrifice buying and spending money in stupid places, and let's spend it on ads, build our reputation much quicker, and then we'll get the furniture a couple years later, and that's what we did. Abe asked, he just bought 2 tattoo machines and he started tattooing on himself. But the question is, how deep should the needle go? You should go get a fucking mentor, bro. Point blank, period. This is not the place for that, all right? I'm not your mentor, and you shouldn't be. You right now are doing what's equivalent to somebody who's never been trained on how to do a surgery, but they're doing a surgery on themselves, all right? It's just stupid. Go get some training, man. And that's not me trying to be an old schooler. That's me trying to say, hey, if you don't want to sit there fucked off for 10 years and just give up, like, if you're serious about your dream of becoming a tattoo artist, you need a mentor. You need somebody that's going to tell you when and when not to do certain things, and they're going to be able to show you how deep the needle goes, because I can't tell you. It has to be shown. So that's what I would recommend, bro. Like, and I want to be clear, like, I've got old videos on here, but they're still not for people in the house. Like, that's not the way we support good tattooing. You need to get in a safe environment, and not for, you know, the wrong rules, but because you're, you know, you need to be responsible, and it doesn't matter if it's a small tattoo or not. Like, what matters is, you know, doing it right. And there's not one right way, but when it comes to being safe and being clean and being smart, there's only a few ways to do that, you know. And tattooing in the house on your own, looking at a YouTube video asking me how deep the needle goes, that's a basic fucking question. That's a question that you should know before you even buy a tattoo machine. And the fact that you don't shows that you shouldn't have one in your hand. So what I recommend is go ahead, by all means, do you. Go fuck up your career right now and spread the city, spread around the city, this dude doing bad tattoos. In 10 years, it's gonna be a lot harder to actually be who you wanna be. Or you go to the right mentor, you put in the work, develop the skills, have loyalty, do all the stuff that I'm sharing in these videos, and you're gonna find out that you're gonna grow a lot faster. The reason to get a mentor is because when you get one, you skip all the years of trial and error that they had to go through. So if you don't have a mentor, it's a lot longer. It's those 10 to 20 years. Don't give me the excuse that some artists started this way. That doesn't mean you can. The reason why some artists start that way, like, here's the thing about some famous artists. Not everybody's meant to be famous. And just because somebody famous did it doesn't mean you can. Like, the people that are great tattoo artists, they would have been great regardless. Like, they were great when they were back then. You're not great. And don't take that the wrong way. What I mean by that is you gotta improve your skills. Some of these great artists, they were already talented. So when they came in, their artwork was already great. It wasn't because they started in the house as great. If you can't say that, if you're not already winning awards with art on paper and on canvas and stuff, you're not one of those artists. And that's just the name of the game. Most artists aren't those world-class artists, and they're not going to be. Why? Well, number one, they don't really put into action. That's the biggest thing. And number two, they might just not have the talent. It's either work ethic or talent or smarts. It's the same concept, same things, man. But don't ruin your career doing it. Like, that's just, like, that is, I see it a lot. And it's just, you know, it's always an artist that's working in the house that doesn't want to put in the work. They're trying to cut corners, all right? This comes down to doing the small things. If you're cutting corners, you won't meet the same place of somebody who doesn't cut corners. You want a sponsorship? If they find out that you learned in the house, you're like 9 times out of 10 less likely to get that sponsorship, just on a respect level. That's just how the industry works, you know? And that's not me. That's just how it works. I was self-taught, but I'm also one of those artists. I've been doing art since I was 3 years old. Like, I've been doing tattoos, and my path is different. Just because I've did it doesn't mean you can. In fact, don't even think you can, because unless you've went down the path that I have, which you haven't, it's not likely. Like, understand that your path is different than everybody else's. And a lot of, like, what has driven me is not just my skills. It's not just my, you know, whatever. It's what I've been through, you know? And certain people have been through a lot more than others. If you haven't had a fucked up life where you're living homeless, where the only thing that makes you feel good in life is doing art on paper because you got so much pain in your life, you don't have the driving force that I had. And that's why you haven't taken the action. See, at 13 years old, I was taking more actions than you in doing tattoos. And this isn't a comparison as in an ego thing. I just want you to understand, like, the driving forces are different in people. And so don't get it mistaken, like, when it comes to doing something ignorantly, just because you've seen a world famous artist do it, you know, there's definitely more to that story. Like, and ultimately this is the question becomes is how far do you want to get, and how serious are you about getting there, and how much respect do you want along the way? Those 3 questions will determine the path you take, all right? Because if you want respect, in the house is not the way to go. If you want growth, the fastest way to grow fast is by getting a mentor. And I wouldn't even just say settle on a mentor in your area, because I think that's the biggest thing holding apprentices back. And it's fucking annoying. I don't even respond to these messages anymore, because I just hear these bitchy ass motherfuckers say, oh, I don't know, I've tried to blah, 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 I've tried all these studios. And it's like, how many studios have you tried? Oh, like 5 or 10? The fuck out of here, man. 5 or 10 and you're already giving up? If you're giving up after walking in 5 and 10 studios, you don't got what it takes, man. I walked into like 30 in a day. Are you fucking serious? Get out of my face with that shit. Like, I've worked in studios where it was so inconvenient, I had to get on a bus and ride a bus through the middle of the hood as the only white guy there for 2.5 hours one way, and then one way back. 5 hours of my day. I literally slept, got on a bus, and and worked an 8-hour shift. Outside of that, I was doing, how did I do art? I did art on the bus. I had to deal with all that rumbling and vibrations. It's not easy, but that's what I did to take it. I messaged hundreds of tattoo studios. I stopped by tons. I passed out 4,000 business cards in 30 days of showing up. Like, a lot of people don't understand that it takes a lot more than, if they're not getting the results they want, it's because they're not giving it enough. If you haven't found a studio that's right for you, you might need to move. You don't want to move? You don't want to accomplish your dreams. If you don't, if that's a big problem, then you don't really want to take care of your dreams. Like, do you understand that is moving out of the place that you're in and relocating is the smallest sacrifice, one of the smallest sacrifices you will make to make your dreams happen. There's a lot bigger sacrifices, from relationships to family to all kinds of things, man. If you can't relocate, you better just understand you're settling. And this is the often thing. We are artists, artists get to create their own rules. So why are we creating rules that don't work for us? Why are we creating such a small ceiling by saying, oh, I can't find an apprenticeship, or I can't find the right studio, but I've only checked out 5 or 10 and I'm not willing to move? You're not really wanting to make your dreams come true, man. You don't really want to be helped. You're gonna probably need to relocate. In fact, it will probably be one of the best things you've done for your life, because so many people have such small minds, getting stuck in them small towns, so much entitledness in America. If you only went to a third world country and saw motherfuckers driving with babies with no helmets, 3 people, 4 people on a fucking scooter with no helmets, and that's just the only thing they can afford to travel on. If you understood how convenient and great we have it in America, you'd stop bitching. Come on, man. So we're gonna go into a couple more of these. I'm gonna wrap these up because I need to smoke this blunt. If you got some questions right now, drop them, because once I drop these lessons, I'm gonna jump off if there ain't no more questions. So drop them now. Do my best. Talk less, listen more. Talk less, listen more. That's with your clients. With your clients, you should be doing 20% of the talking. They should be doing 80%. Same with your boss. Talk less, listen more, ask more questions. Build a genuine relationship with them, with your clients as well. 26, don't give up when it's overwhelming. That's when the biggest breakthroughs come. I always like to be reminded, I like to remind myself when I'm feeling stressed, frustrated, when I start getting those wrinkles right there, that's when I'm growing. That's when I'm about to learn something. And so as long as you remember and you value learning something, that usually helps me get through with that and just keep pushing through, rather than getting frustrated and giving up or some shit. When you're frustrated, that means you're about to learn something. Let me repeat it. All right, next one. If you're feeling like leaving a studio, have an honest conversation and try to find solutions with the shop owner before making a decision. You would be surprised by how much problems can be solved by speaking the fuck up, rather than bottling in your stuff and gossiping to somebody. See, this is what happens when somebody gossips. Deep down, it eats them. They're unhappy in order to gossip, and it eventually eats them inside. And eventually, they start to feel guilty and like a fucking turd because they were talking shit on a good person that gave them an opportunity. Don't do that. All right? Don't even get to the point of gossip. If you start feeling frustrated like you need to gossip, instead of gossiping, talking to somebody who it isn't about, and that person is not in the room, contact the person, bring them in the room and talk to them like a fucking man. That's what a man is. Whether you're a man or a woman, that's what we do. That's respectable. Being willing to talk things and hash things out. It's 2 people, it's a relationship. You know, when you just assume things and you assume how something's gonna go, or you just bite your tongue, it's not good for you, man. It's not good for your health. Address what you like, what you don't like. Address what's a deal breaker for you and why. And be willing to walk away. At the same time, also understand when you're coming from an entitled place that you didn't earn. Like if you're coming from I want a higher percentage, but your work sucks, you're new in town, you don't know how to tattoo longer than 2-hour sessions, and you're not very much of a people's person, you're not going above and beyond for the team, you don't deserve stuff like that, you know? Always remember, but when you do more than it's expected, this is where these type of things apply and they become effortless. If you're doing more than expected, you usually have no problem, having these conversations with the owner of the studio. In fact, these conversations usually don't ever need to even be had if you actually do more than expected, or at least do what is expected. These conversations usually happen when you're not doing what's expected. "28, if you leave, put in a month's notice and get right when it comes to clients and financials. You can be sued over this. You can ruin bridges over this. Out of respect for the person who believed in you when you didn't believe in you, that's the least you could do." Share that shit, man. Out of respect for the person who believed in you before you believed in you and put you on when they could have had said no to you in the first place. And upon leaving them, know what you learned from them, how they helped you, and what you valued about them. Let them know how you changed their how you changed their life, how you brought value to their life. And if you're so upset and you're holding grudges that you can't say to their face, that's a good indicator that you're leaving for the wrong reason. All right? If you've got a grudge, you're leaving for the wrong reason. All right? It's a good indicator that there's a conversation that hasn't been had. And it's up to you as a fucking man and as a person that doesn't feel good inside to bring that out and express that. It's nobody else's responsibility to bring that conversation to you. Next one, don't think you can run a business better than them. You can't, or you would be. That's the truth of it, all right? The smart thing to do if you want to run a studio and you're working in a studio is to build the relationship and set the intentions at some point with the studio owner, saying, hey, in a couple of years, I'd like to open a studio. I'd like you to mentor me with this studio, and I'd like to grow from here to there in a way that supports that to where we don't burn this bridge, right? Very simple conversation. But for some reason, people just think they can run a studio and cut out a mentor that's already practicing and walking the path that they want to walk, thinking they can walk it better. All right, I was one of those people, and it was retarded. I had to go through it, open my own studio, and then realize, dude, Dax, you owe Gaston an apology. You were a jackass. You owe that man an apology, because now you got to deal with jackasses like yourself in your studio from time to time again. And I have had to. Now, I got a great team right now, but, through my journey, I definitely was reminded, I've definitely had my return from karma of being that little badass, entitled, ignorant tattoo artist that didn't give a fuck about the studio owner. And at the same time, if you do want to run your own business, go fucking run one. My biggest pet peeve is somebody complaining about the food that's being put on their plate when they're not cooking it and they're not paying for it, all right? If you are complaining about the owner of the studio that you work in, get the fuck out and open your own, or shut the fuck up. Like, that shit is pathetic, all right? That is scum. That is turd thinking, man. That's super ungrateful and disrespectful. That's like complaining about about you needing a house and somebody, a homie of yours, letting you stay for a month, and then you're complaining about it. Like, they didn't have to even let you in, motherfucker. Get the fuck out on the streets if that's what you want to do. Be grateful for the opportunity, point blank, period. And make the most of it. It's not always just on the studio owner or anything, or the shop, as much as it's on you. You got the opportunity, what you gonna do with it? Ain't nobody else doing nothing with it. 30, don't blame the owner of the shop, help them. It's a team effort. Just because they own the shop doesn't mean they're supposed to have everything figured out. Every day is a learning experience. Together we grow. Teamwork makes the dream work. And remember, the only problem-free business is a dead business. We get paid in direct proportion to the problems we solve. This is why small, cheap, easy tattoos people don't spend a lot on. This is why they don't book and don't wait and don't value them as much as the bigger pieces. Because they're not very hard to do. There's not a big problem they're solving. But now let's take a portrait. A lot of people can't do good portraits. So that's why people are willing to pay higher for them. And same with other styles that are very similar. 31, always remember teamwork makes the dream work. Self-explanatory. But the question I want to leave you with is think about a bank account, a team bank account, all right? Are you putting more deposits in or are you making more withdrawals? 32, do anything you can to take weight off the shop owner's back. Why do I say this? Because the person who opens their home and their team to you as a guest and gives you the opportunity to make a living and feed your family is one of the most important people in your life. Take it that way. How much of our life do we spend working? 30% at minimum. So 30% of our life is going to be around this person. Is that somebody you want to be around in life? Number one. If they are, it's probably important to keep them happy and build that relationship, right? If you treat them better, you can take care of your family better, and opportunities and growth can become unlimited. All right? If you treat them with disrespect, you'll fuck up a good thing and lose it all, and it affects not just you over your grudge or mentality or stupid beef. Like, you're affecting your family now, your opportunities, and your growth. And the most important tip, when you're thinking that the grass is greener on the other side, just know that once you're there, it will probably be the same color as the grass you're standing on now. All right? Grass only becomes greener if you water it. It doesn't matter where you're standing. Now, obviously, there's different studios, different types. This comes down to self-awareness, understanding what supports your path. Do you want to be a well-rounded artist? Do you want to be a specialized artist? What city do you want to start in, establish yourself in? Do you want to travel? Getting clear on that, knowing who you are and knowing what grass to water is going to be key. But just know, you should go through a bunch. You should experience a lot of dislikes and a lot of things you don't like in order to understand what you do like. So these are all my tips. I'm going to check out the comment section. See if we can throw you some bangers real quick. Okay. So Abe asks, you should be good in drawing to be a tattoo artist? Absolutely. I don't even fucking associate with tattoo artists that aren't already artists before tattooing. I don't because you got to understand, tattooing is not an art. Tattooing is just a paintbrush. It's a different fucking pencil. You understand? So if you just, anybody can hold a pencil, anybody can hold a paintbrush. That doesn't mean they're an artist. There's a lot of scribbly, scrabbly bullshit out there. You know what I'm talking about? So, but here's the thing. If you do some studying, go look at some, and 30 years ago is different. A lot of the industry was bikers, sailors, shit like that. But nowadays, it's like real fine artists are getting out of college and getting into tattooing. And notice, a lot of the fine artists, notice how fast they develop. Like within a couple of years, they're doing world-class artwork. Why is that? It's because what's most important in tattooing is learning off of skin. If you can't do art on a high fucking level off of skin, on canvas, on paper. You don't tattoo it. You don't learn on skin. You just learn the difference between how can I translate a lot of details on paper to on skin, because the first tattoo that I did in this style, it was a lot more detailed on paper than on skin, but I could do it detailed on paper. But if you can't do something detailed on paper, you shouldn't do it on skin. You practice and challenge your levels on paper and then skin. And this is also why you see some of those oil painters and drawing artists come in and learn and become world-known tattoo artists in a fraction of the time that it takes some guy that, you know, picked up tattooing because he got out of prison, or, you know, because he was, you know, in a biker, sailor, whatever. Somebody who wasn't an artist before tattooing, somebody who focused on the flash stuff, like, that's somebody who, you know, they're an oil painter, somebody who has a lot deeper fundamental understanding of art, because fundamentals of art is number one in anything. All right, in an artist, fundamentals of art. If that's not there, you can't replace it. You're cutting corners. Does that make sense? Next question. How good should you be on drawing? You should be good enough to where people pay you to draw. Because it's only common sense. If they're not going to pay for your drawings, why would they pay for your tattoos? And if you haven't paid for a drawing class or course or something, you probably don't draw that good, man. It's not your time to shine. It's your time to charge up, all right? There's a charge up phase. That's the learning phase. And then there's a time to shine. You got to charge up before you shine, man. All right, I came today traveling 3 hours of flight just to join the studio, leaving my daughter and family home, but I'm very upset because the studio I want to be a good tattoo artist. How to tackle this situation? Forbidden, I already did, man. I asked you, are you an apprentice, or how experienced are you? I answered it in two different ways. If you're an apprentice, you're in the wrong, you made the wrong move. You know, you've got too much expenses to go learn how to tattoo in that kind of way. However, if you're a good tattoo artist, and you can say you're above average in a way where, you know, an artist, because here's the thing, nothing special about a tattoo artist that just showed up to town unless they got good artwork that's above and beyond what's out there. That's how you're going to get clientele. If you're not that, it's going to be hard to do that, especially in a studio that's not doing a whole lot of that for you. But if you're a good artist and you're not just, you know, doing this and thinking you're a good artist, send me a DM on Instagram. Send me a DM on Savage Dex on my Instagram. If I like your work, you know, and you're willing to fly out to my place and everything vibes, you know, maybe I'll invite you out there and see if we can work out something. Obviously, you'd have to take the same exact risk to get out there, but we don't not do stuff for our artists. But you would have to, you know, our clients have a higher our clients and our team and myself, we have a high expectation of who we work next to. Brandon Love, find me on Savage Dax Instagram. Show me your artwork. I want to see. All right, y'all. It's 73 minutes into this thing today. Got to get to it for the day, man. We're going to go smoke, work out, take it to that level, man. Right here, we got Gary V. Going to be doing some painting on him. But now it's time to work, man. So I suggest you do the same. No excuses. Have a good one.